guys
wonder if
think that VR will get to that point?
Yes.
I
Scarily.
Well,
yeah, I
then
think
how
it's only a
quick?
matter of time. Oh my gosh,
I think
dude,
it's
what
within the
is?
decade.
Is that
Oh,
for the
I
better or
agree.
worse though? Is that for the better or worse? Because like
I think it's only for the benefit, in my opinion.
I have to
Yeah.
disagree slightly in the fact that like what if like okay, so I'm gonna go off on a little tangent here. I believe in the simulation theory first off. I just want to put that out there. I've done drugs. Let's just say that. Then, like
Wait, so you think we're all like in a simulation?
let me explain. So like okay. So we know this is our only reality, right? Like and this is gonna sound really out there for a second, but like let me get to my point. So this is our only reality that we perceive. And so we've gone directly to simulation, like making simulations like games like The Sims, and like we can like completely simulate something. And then we've also gone straight to VR. What's to say that we're not already in a VR simulation headset? And we're just like gonna go one other layer deep, like Inception style. We're just going into another simulation type thing, and we're just never gonna.
There's
leave.
actually a game that's based on that in VR already.
Oh fucking hell!
Super hot.
I forget
Super
what it's
hot
called.
into that a little bit though too.
Super Hot? Did you say?
Yeah.
Yeah, Super
No,
Hot's
that's not
very,
the
like,
one.
that's
There's one
similar
where
to
like
that, though.
you keep putting on more VR headsets, and it's like a layered experience.
I think I know what you're talking about, but to add to that point to what Jordan said, I took acid and played Super Hot, and Jesus,
Why would you do
fuck,
that?
It was a bad idea, but it was kind of fun actually. I only played it for like 30 minutes, but like it was pretty fun.
As far as you know, you only played it for 30 minutes.
It was
Yeah.
actually 20 years. I've just been
Yeah, you're
playing
actually
since I was a
40.
baby.
I think getting into like, well, you're talking about the simulation theory, and you're like asking, well, do you think it's something that is possible? I mean, I don't believe in it, but if I were to ask for a certain proof that it's technically possible, that proof would be the ability to compute every single thing simultaneously that we live and experience right now within a system that we make ourselves. So like if you think about it, the way a game works is not you know, one person, not everyone has everything rendering at the same time. So if you're playing a game, you know, it'll render what you see and what is important to the character.
Oh, we lost Ron
Oh.
again.
Ron has been
rip.
okay. So let me just think. It'll render what you see and what's important to the character.
I know what he means, and what I was gonna say is like, well, I remember watching a Joe Rogan podcast with Elon Musk, and Elon Musk was talking about Neurolink, and like Neurolink could like visibly like alter you, so it'd be like VR, but like in your brain already, and it can also like have like neural connections, and like it can fix mental disorders and that kind of stuff. So like imagine we're all connected.
I don't think it was to the point though when they did the I don't think they were at the point where they could directly influence and completely alter what the five senses were experiencing though.
They
Or
said
like
not
alter
yet.
yet.
They said not
brain.
yet.
That's like their goal though.
Yeah, they said like
Yeah.
what was it like within the 10, 15
Oh,
years?
hey, Ron's back.
Ron's back.
Okay, so
How
Ron,
long was I gone?
Like
we
30
lost you
seconds.
at it'll render you what's important to you and what's
So you
important
couldn't
to
hear
your
anything
character.
I was saying?
No. You cut out a couple times. It's a ripperoni.
If
Was
we
it-
want to get existential, there's theories that the reason we haven't seen any signs of life is because all life out there has gone inward instead of outward.
Inward like
Far
underground?
as-
Or
No, like inward as in
introspective,
we
like-
will make our own reality and change our perspective of time and what life really is, and just not explore anywhere because we have the means to create whatever we want within
Interesting.
our own systems.
Very
and that's why
interesting.
you don't see any life out there, any signs, because they
went
never
inward
went
in
out,
their brain.
they went in.
Very. That's like what I'm getting at is like the
Talking
simulation theory
about-
though. Is like what if
Isn't
we
the
just
beauty
all
of
go
simulation, like everything is simulated, we are already in one.
Yeah, like
The
that
problem with that is then like how would you get out?
it's essentially
you
that
can
we're
create a simulation, but
it's essentially that we're
that's
like born into it. Like we were like essentially just like put into it as a fucking kid and we just live
this
that
is
life
my-
into it.
So
And-
this is my thing with that I don't think there's like even a slight chance that we're all living in a simulation. Mostly because if you're at the point where you can directly influence what a person perceives, you would have the ability to prevent them from even considering the possibility that they're living in a simulation, because that could risk the chance of them breaking out of it and
Or
escaping.
going into another layer and never coming out. Yeah.
I disagree.
Right, so
I disagree because like I feel like there's always gonna be like people like conspiring about something, and like there's always like
right, but I'm saying if you can directly control the brain and what the brain does and perceives, you would be able to prevent that, is what I'm saying. Just like the whole Neuralink thing. If we get to the point where we can literally stop malfunctioning neurons and make them fire in a certain way to get a desired result, you should be able to do that if you're running like such a even larger scale than that, much more advanced than that. So that's where I'm at. We're like the very thought, the very idea, or no, sorry, the ability for us to conspire that we're living in a simulation is proof of itself that we're not in a simulation. Kind of like the I think therefore I am,
it's like
because we're able to consider it.
so it's like
It's not a
paradoxical
possibility.
then, is what you're saying. Like
Yeah.
it'd be-
If you
Yeah.
want to talk about paradoxes, there's one thing that keeps coming up to me, which is, I think it's called the Last Thursday paradox. Am I still here, by the way?
yeah,
Yes.
you're sure.
Okay.
It's like whenever I go on a long-winded thing, I will make
Yeah.
sure.
Last Thursdayism is basically like, well, the whole universe, and this is just an idea and it can't be proven. And I think this is similar to simulation theory. Last Thursdayism is basically everything was made last Thursday. All your recollections of everything that happened before it was created last Thursday. And that's where the world started, just because it instantaneously was. And while technically, we could just talk about it and say, sure, that's a thing that maybe was possible, whatever the layman would like to say, you can't prove it. And that goes to like Occam's razor, where you take the assumption that requires the least amount of parameters and variabilities and everything, because you're slicing it down to the thing that makes the most sense without assuming the most.
So
And I
essentially,
think that's what kind
so
of shoots that down.
are you saying like so like we can like group together like simulation theory and like the last Thursdayism like thing with like kind of like
I think they're in a similar
Schrodinger's
vein
cat.
right now.
Like
Yeah.
they're in like a similar vein. Like you could say like it's like there's like not enough probability to say like either yes or no, but there's no point
there's
in like
literally no
worrying about
proof.
it. There's no proof on
So-
either.
Yeah.
So he's saying like if
But there's also no proof that it
if
didn't
you-
happen either, right?
Right, but that's
you
why
would-
no.
you would default
Yeah,
to
exactly.
the most reasonable explanation based on
Right.
your experiences and because humans don't draw on our own experience, we draw on the experience of everyone around us and past.
Oh yeah, yeah.
know. So
It's
like,
like
if a
group
baby
mentality.
and a car are trapped in a box and then the car is suddenly moved forward 4 feet or so, the reasonable explanation would not be that the baby moved the car. You have no evidence that the baby didn't move the car, but from what you experience, you know that there's no way in hell a baby has the strength to move a car. So you would say, okay, someone either got in the car and drove it, which wasn't the baby, because you wouldn't assume it was the baby. Same idea, because babies aren't smart enough to operate a motor vehicle.
Right.
So you wouldn't assume that it was the baby. You would look for kind of the path of least resistance of where you were like, okay, so I know it can't be this because of what I've experienced. What's the most logical conclusion?
I see what you mean
So
there, but like you can't
that's kinda
think
where I'm at
logical
with, like,
in that
simulation.
situation. I get what you're saying, and like that's definitely like the most logical explanation. But I guess like if you think it's not philosophical. What is it? Is it? I think it's philosophical.
Psychological?
It's like something like that. Like it's not like you have to like think on it. It's kind of like a stupid thing to think about. It's not like a realistic thing that might actually be real.
Hypothetical?
Maybe it's hypothetical. I don't know. I can't. I know what like I'm
See, the
thinking of.
thing with theories of like existence and creation and everything that I find really interesting, if you are not objectively already, interested in one, if you're just looking at the history of where we get ideas like this, it goes with the technology. We didn't really start thinking about things like simulation theory until, a little bit before the 90s, you know, or well, I don't know where it started, but basically the idea of a simulation really kicked off with the advent of
Technology.
computers and technology that can actually simulate something.
I guess it can go
and
along
that-
with like the era as well, because like I mean like in like the 90s, like you said, like simulation theory took off, but like what if there was like a theory like way back in the day, like like I don't know, like the mountain god is real or something like that. Like people are like
right.
thinking
Well,
of,
I
like-
mean, and that is how it was. Is the more out there assumptions of who we are or what is life or everything like that is based on what we are able to create or what our creations can assist us in doing. So like when we first started flying, if you look at predictions for the futures in like the early 2000s, when they wrote predictions, you know, in the 20s, they would there's like drawings from artists who assumed we would be flying through drive-throughs picking up coffee and drink and stuff like that, and obviously that never came to be.
No, we just flew
but-
through buildings. Anyway.
Yeah, in the early 2000s. Oof.
It was
Um,
it was the whole. It was mixed up. They were just trying to get to work.
Yeah.
They're just like drive through, drop me off.
It was the Disney Fast Pass.
We're talking about
but you get what
9/11,
I'm saying.
everybody.